Hi, everyone. Welcome back to...
Yay.
What's this podcast called? The Otaku Host Club.
Anime Host Club.
Not Otaku Melancholy, which we were on last weekend.
So you should check that episode out if you haven't already.
That was a lot of fun.
We were talking about kisses.
That was a lot of fun. I think we should have them on soon.
For sure.
Yes, I've been debating whether I should upload cross-game for Matt or burn data CDRs or burn DVDRs and mail them. But maybe we can all watch cross-game and talk about that. Although that's a big undertaking because it's like 50 episodes.
Yeah, we would need probably like a month's time to prepare.
I think in my eyes, the right way of doing it would just be to do multiple episodes that we just watch it in 12 episode chunks and talk about it for multiple episodes of podcast.
A reoccurring podcast episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are ones like that out there that are just like there's one for Gundam that they follow each Gundam episode. Every episode, there's a podcast episode for it.
Yeah, and they do that with One Piece too. There's the I don't know what it's called, but there's one where it's like a 2-hour podcast on every episode of One Piece, which after a certain point, if you're up to date with One Piece, after a certain point, it's like, man, is there really 2 hours worth of material to talk about in each episode?
That's a lot of investment.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're comparing the manga, panel to panel. Yeah, I mean, look, I guess it's not that deep.
No, I would say it is, but I would say the pacing is so slowed down. There's only so much that happens in any given episode. So
exactly,
it's hard to pull out enough content when there's only after like 3 minutes of opening song and then a 5-minute recap of a 25-minute episode, you're only in the end, you only get like 15 minutes of actual new material.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be like, I'm trying to think. I imagine doing that with Dragon Ball or
exactly,
or Naruto. I mean, even Naruto.
Naruto would be like one whole season is filler, so it would just be like recapping all of the filler, which is also like mostly flashbacks of like previous seasons.
Yeah.
Just all flashback. All right. Well, my name is Geoff, and I am now the newest Dorohedoro fanboy.
What's up, guys? I'm Amelia, and if this podcast were on Tinder, I'd swipe right.
I'm Dan. I got really bad sunburns at the protest, so I'm wearing long sleeve shirt and long pants and 80-degree weather out here.
It's hot. Summer is here.
It is.
Officially, we didn't have a spring. Well, actually, it wasn't too bad. Actually, it was like 70s.
We were just all inside for spring.
That's what it was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We were podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the news. Attack on Titan. New season, right? Got a trailer for it.
It's the last season.
Yeah,
the final season.
The finale. It's like Game of Thrones. We talked about this last week, didn't we? The week before.
Yeah.
It's exciting. It's on that level of excitement, I think.
I think so too.
Don't fuck it up.
Yeah, I don't think they will. After watching Dorohedoro, I have faith in Studio Mappa to pull this off. I have not watched the trailer for the new Attack on Titan because I want to go into it as blind as possible. I still haven't finished season 3. I haven't watched the second chunk of it, so I'm lagging.
Yeah,
I don't want to get ahead of myself.
I'm not caught up either, but that's like one of that and Log Horizon is coming out with a new season at the end of the year. So
isn't that incredibly random? I thought that was like a 90s show.
Log Horizon? It's not 90s. It's
Maybe I'm thinking of Hack.
You're definitely probably thinking of Hack.
Don't ever bring that name up.
Actually, I was just like I was literally like ruffling through like old stuff, and I found New Type magazines where Hack was on the cover, and I was like, damn, they were really pushing Hack back then, but it's not good.
That's exactly why I don't like art online, sword art online. They're just too similar. And I don't know. I just can't get on that bandwagon with that stuff. But
I actually watched all of Sword Art Online.
Same.
Out of pure curiosity to see what all the commotion was about.
Mm-hmm.
It lived up to the hype for being pretty grotesquely bad. It was just a disaster.
I don't think the first season is that bad. I don't think it is as bad as everyone says it is. But I also I liked Gun Gale, and I know that's an unpopular opinion, but I like the Gun Gale arc more.
Yeah, Gun Gale, the first season, the first chunk of it in Gun Gale were definitely better than the other parts. It's hard for me to think that the first season is good in some way because like for example, what's up with that girl just like randomly killing herself in episode 3 for like no fucking reason, characters are just doing these like totally and like these ridiculously intense and melodramatic reactions that seem to just come out of nowhere and have like very little context or like, why are you behaving like this? It's just nonsense. But I will give Sword Art Online points for having I know I feel like people disagree with me on this, but I did like the romantic arc between the main guy and the redhead girl. Because I liked it because it was kind of an arc filled with confidence and resolution in a way that I feel is rare in anime. We see so much kind of hints of romance arcs throughout anime, and unless it's a romance anime specifically, it rarely gets that much of the spotlight. And almost every time these characters are caught in these like will they won't they vague interactions, which is cool, and I like it. I'm there for it. I too am filled with these kinds of vague interactions in my own life, so I relate to it and it resonates with me. But also I found it very fulfilling to watch an anime love story where these two people were more straightforward about their feelings and did come together in a meaningful way and build a reasonable type relationship on screen. And that was what kept me watching throughout the stuff that I watched. But after a certain point, I was just like, I think it was like after Gun Gale when they were like elves flying around and the big elf was like sexually assaulting the girl, and I was like, why, like, what the fuck is this? Like, why
do I care?
None of it, yeah,
I don't give a fuck about any of this.
The motivations and the actions of these people is just nonsense. Like, the fuck is this? It wasn't even like, the thing is the romance, like the part that the fact that there was a redeeming quality to this and the romance angle made it impossible for me to approach it as purely this like, this is just like straight up spectacle trash and I should just like enjoy the moments of absurdity and think that this is like, oh, it's just bullshit anyway, because the show clearly doesn't think that it's bullshit. Like, it is clearly trying to be good and failing. Mm-hmm. And B, it actually managed to do something right, which negates the idea that we should just enjoy this thing based on its failures, because they have it in them to do something right. So they ought to be able to get the rest of it right too, but they can't. That's why it sucks.
I didn't like the baby situation that was happening with the romance, so I couldn't get into it.
Word, that's fair. And
I was
I agree.
What the fuck, y'all? Like,
have they got the weird computer baby?
Yeah.
I also was like,
done, checked out. Bye.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit if you have a baby, like a fake baby. Like, let's move on. No, done.
I haven't seen this show, but if you're gonna have romance, it has to have intent, right? Can't just be there for fun. Like, oh, just throw it in there and hope it works out in the end.
Well, I disagree actually, and the example of that I think of is Last Exile, which is not a particularly popular or critically acclaimed kind of show, but it is a show that I'm a fan of. I got it on DVD. I've watched it a couple times in college and got a lot out of it. There is definitely an underdeveloped romance arc that goes nowhere and seems to have just been thrown in on a whim and receives not nearly enough screen time to make it worthwhile in any way. But I still like it. And I still sit watching this show thinking, I hope the two of them finally acknowledge their feelings for each other and get together.
So it can work.
Jeff, I always feel like, though, whenever we're talking about an anime that potentially has romance, you're always like, should it be there, though? That's always your line. You're like, nah, I'm good.
Well, yeah, because sometimes I feel like the romance is sort of forced, or like it's the characters they don't follow through with it. It's always like a push and pull type angst, and I don't know. Well, I guess that can be fun in times, but it kind of frustrates me when they just don't just be an adult, grow something, whether it's balls or tits. I don't know.
Grow one of them.
Yeah, that's just why I liked. What was the series we talked about recently?
Kisses.
No. Well, not the same ballpark. Scum Swish.
Yeah.
Which I think that's a mature of sexuality in teenage.
Yes. I agree.
And it's full of intent. Like every relationship in that is filled with intent.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, news.
Yeah, as we, if your main critique here is that these people need to learn how to be more emotionally mature adults, I'm going to come out. I'm going to say that is a big ask, because we all know that the majority of adults in this world are not emotionally mature either.
Absolutely not.
I definitely feel like I'm right there with them. I too have difficulty expressing my emotions to people important to me at times. And, even if I think about it and, lay awake all night wondering what is the right way of approaching this topic or what's the right thing to say, I still can't figure it out or muster up the courage. And, all this anime stuff is reflective of real life, in my opinion, because me and many other people in this world act like this.
All right. On to, do we know a date for this show, for the Attack on Titan season 4? It's just kind of up in the air, right?
Let me check.
Well, they must be getting closer if they got a trailer out. But as we talk about comparing this to Game of Thrones, there's for sure this is going to be better because the source material is pretty much done, right? Isn't the manga like on the crux of being finished? So they're not going to get left in a lurch like the Game of Thrones guys, where they were not exactly left in a lurch, but they were in a situation where they had to come up with the story on their own, which clearly they were incapable of doing correctly.
According to this article, it's 5% left. Stories left. The mangaka is still writing it.
And it says it's supposed to come out in fall season. So right now we're like just finishing up spring and going into summer. So they have a season, but I don't know. Is it going to be delayed because of the coronavirus?
Probably.
Might be.
Yeah, I already have my hopes set higher than Game of Thrones at this point.
Oh.
To what you said, Dan, because of the source material. At least they're waiting for it to be done. So that's good news.
Good. Yeah, and that the Made in Abyss movie that was supposed to come out at the beginning of this year, I read a headline that is getting a DVD and Blu-ray release maybe in September, and they're kind of bypassing a theatrical release in the US because of coronavirus. So on the one hand, I'm happy. Like I guess I would imagine that if this were to get a theatrical release in the US, that the DVD would still be, a year off, because I feel like that's how it goes half the time. Like theatrical release comes a little bit, it comes within a reasonable time frame, then they take forever to get the DVD out. So I'm imagining that they are making the DVD happen faster because they are not doing a theatrical release anymore. So, okay, I'll take what I can get, Yeah. I'll buy the DVD when it comes out for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I really like that series. Mm-hmm. I'm upset that they wrapped it up in a movie instead of a second season, but I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, I don't think it's really wrapped up though, is it? I mean, it's still an ongoing manga.
Yeah, but they haven't released they said that they were going to do they said they were going to do a second season, but instead they released the 2 movies that summarize the first season, and then they're releasing the next movie and not a second season.
Yeah, but there's still more of the story after this movie. I mean, you don't think there's a possibility they're going to revert back to a anime, seasonal anime format for the story going forward?
Why, what would make that decision happen? Why not already put out a second season? Unless the manga hasn't been released yet or been written yet. But then I don't know.
Yeah. And I think the manga's not, I don't think the manga is that far along because it's got a kind of irregular release schedule, right? I'm talking a little bit out of my depth here because I've only read the manga up through what the movie is going to cover.
I've only seen the first season.
Okay. Yeah, I read the next story arc in the manga. And I thought it was quite good. And I understand how that could work out pretty well as a movie.
I guess I just don't get why you would release a movie if you've already released the first season.
Yeah, and I'm going to speculate, and I have no clue how accurate this might be, so somebody can certainly hop on the Discord and tell me I'm a poser for not knowing this stuff and correct me.
Yes,
but my guess, or the way I see this as being feasible, is that first anime season was such a big hit, they thought, all right, we got to hurry up, get a follow-up coming, keep the ball rolling. They didn't have enough manga ahead of them to support 6 hours of screen time based on another core of seasonal anime. So they're like, all right, let's put a movie out. The movie's going to cover the next story arc and will buy us time for the manga to continue to get ahead. And then feasibly, if the manga gets far enough ahead, they could switch back over to a seasonal anime format, assuming the movie is also a big success and they feel like they want to keep the franchise going, But I think that puts a lot of hope on the manga kind of continuing at a steady tempo and progressing far enough along to warrant another season of anime. And it's not obvious to me that that's the case. As somebody that is looking at this franchise from a little bit of a distance, I'm not caught up with the manga, but it was my impression that it is not so totally far along, from where the movie is going to leave us. So, I mean, maybe they will just keep pumping out movies periodically and try to fit, each story arc as a movie. But I hope they don't do that. I agree. I'd like to see them return to a seasonal anime format.
Yeah, I just want as much of this franchise as possible. So I'm upset that there was a movie. There was a decision to do a movie instead of a second season. I think I don't know. Someone else can correct me, but I think that it would be. I think they are going to do another season. It's just I don't get the decision. I don't. Why do a movie in between? Just give me all of it. I just want all of it.
Make money.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I guess, but they're not even making money off of it. Because nobody's going to see it in theaters if it's just going to have a DVD release.
Speaking of movies, there's a film festival. Realm Film Fest is happening next week. And they're selling virtual tickets. Whereas you normally would go, obviously you'd go and watch the movie in theaters, or you pay $16 to watch one movie and you have like a day or two to watch it.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, $16. Basically.
You want $16 for me to watch one movie?
Yeah, and I wonder if cons are doing the same thing, essentially, right? Aren't they starting to do virtual cons?
But you don't have to pay for them. They're just all on Twitch.
Yeah. But I guess a film festival is
a little different. I guess.
Pay
AX is doing a 3-day event in July for their convention.
So is the virtual merch room just going to be people walking around their storefronts and storage spaces with a live stream being like, look at all this shit I got on my shelves. Anybody want it? Anybody want it?
Going once, going twice. Yeah, like you got to bid through the chat.
Yeah. I'd do that.
I mean, 60% of our time at cons is spent just wandering around the merch room. So virtual con, I feel like, really misses a key component of our, as a friend group, our con experiences.
Yeah.
There's Funimation Con. They're having a 2-day stream of cosplay meetups, industry panels, Q&A sessions, and more. So
everybody,
even Funimation's doing it. That's wild.
Yeah, and Crunchyroll Expo is also postponed till next year. Like they canceled this year's. That's pretty crazy. It seems like the more we think that it's not like cons aren't going to get canceled, like they're just like, nope, bye.
Yeah, I think this whole year is a wash. There ain't going to be anything interesting happening this year.
Yeah, what's making us happy?
What makes us happy versus what I was watching this week are two different topics.
What's making you happy, Dan? What's making you feel good inside?
I enjoyed watching the mayor of Minneapolis when we were all protesting outside of his house. There were like 1,000 or 2,000 people there. So yesterday, and he came out of his house, which is a good thing. And he talked with the people that were kind of in charge of the protest, which is a good thing. And it seemed like this was a reasonable kind of conversation. Granted, I could only hear this, softly from the distance. But then they asked Mayor Fry point blank if he would abolish the police, which is a topic that is currently happening in Minneapolis. Our city council is, on Twitter and behind closed doors. They are debating amongst themselves and kind of pitching the idea of abolishing and dissolving the Minneapolis Police Department, which I think is a good thing. It's a very good thing. I'd love to see Minneapolis take the first steps towards a world without police and show that this is something that is feasible and can be done. And we asked the mayor if he would dissolve the police, and he said no, which is a bad thing. Or if he would commit to dissolving the police, and he said no, I will not make this commitment. And so that's too bad. And then he took the most glorious Game of Thrones style walk of shame through the protesters. I swear to God, like you can still, as much as, literally, that's exactly how it was. And you can feel, like, I understand that Game of Thrones is dead as a franchise, but you can still feel the reverberations of this, cultural moment, because this motherfucker was walking through the crowd of protesters and everyone, 1,000, 2,000 people chanting at him, shame, 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 shame. Oh my good Lord, man. He's fucking getting it.
Shame. And that's the last we saw of him. Shame.
Yeah. I mean, after something, how do you bounce back from something like that? Like, I would fucking go sit in a dark room and hide under the covers, 2,000 people chanting shame at me. My fucking good God. But yeah, I mean, he, in that moment, he deserves it, yes, because he should. I mean, on the one hand, I realize it's a big ask to, like, on the spot ask the mayor to commit to, dissolving the police, but also, if the city council is moving in that direction, the mayor should hop on board. It's what the people want. This is not an unreasonable request, in my opinion, and there are. We are due to try a different way of organizing our society to do away with the violence and this institution that is so encapsulated violence and racism in our modern life. And I read a very interesting quote last night, and I have never thought about this before. It really blew my mind, and I've been kind of sort of rankling it around in my mind. They were asking, so it's the famous guy, and I know I'm going to mispronounce his name, but I think his last name is Coates, Coates. He's kind of a famous speaker on racial topics. And he was giving an interview, and they asked him, how would you describe, a world without police to people that, think that the police are necessary? And he made the point that if you want to imagine a world without police as think about your white privilege experiences in the suburbs where there basically are no police present, and you don't interact with them unless you call them on the phone and they come running. And that your experiences in the suburbs and in these kind of predominantly white areas are just categorically different than what you see in the cities in majority black neighborhoods, where the police are trawling around 24/7 looking to bust people for stuff. And as I reflected on my own life and, growing up in Severna Park versus living, at Barclay House and at 7-Eleven for so many years, and kind of the differences between these neighborhoods, I never really connected the idea that, actually, where I lived in the city proper, there were police everywhere at all times. Like I'd see police rolling around constantly, basically just looking to bust people for a broken taillight or a rolled stop sign or whatever, versus growing up in Severna Park, I never saw police, never saw them anywhere. Not that I knew that police was a thing that happened, that this was an institution that does exist and they do things, but they were not a part of my daily life in any meaningful way, and not a part of kind of the neighborhood ambiance at all. And I just never really thought about that. My experiences in that way. And it did make me think a lot about how, like when we think about, world without police, that's crazy. It's like, is it really crazy? Because I think a lot of the country kind of lives in a world without police in their experiences, and they seem to do just fine. And the police are not necessarily there because they're, necessary. This really goes more towards, institutional violence and poverty and lack of social welfare for people, more so than some need for the police to be out there, because if they're not out there, then bad things happen. I mean, that's just not true. Yeah. That's all I got to
say. Any shows making you happy?
I've been watching Rick and Morty still. Oh. I am almost done with season 3. Got 1 episode left. It has lived up to the hype to me. I am a fan of this show. I was surprised by the level of kind of emotional depth and long run storytelling in this show. I was not expecting it to be something you could really sink your teeth into, but it is. Yeah, I'm a fan. I like it. I'm looking forward to watching season 4. I have 10 episodes left of Space Brothers. It has continued to be really good. I feel kind of weird about the younger brother's relationship, not relationship with this 15-year-old Russian girl, which is part of the story arc, one of the story arcs. Yeah, this dude's supposed to be my age, and I've been really contemplating this because the show frame, like through directing and background music and kind of I don't know, through different ways the story is framed, they really want to lead you to believe that there is this emotional connection and just like, you know, a whiff of romance between, you know, this early 30s younger brother and the 15-year-old Russian girl. And on the one hand, I'm like, man, that was a bit inappropriate, isn't it? And like for a show that is pretty realistic, this feels very unrealistic. You know, like, do I really think any reasonable person in their early 30s is going to hit it off with a fucking 15-year-old? Like, no, not really.
That's a little weird.
Yeah. But on the other hand, the show, like clearly the girl has this like playful infatuation with the brother. And yeah, okay, that's fine. You know, that stuff happens. And the brother doesn't like specifically reciprocate, or he like kind of makes it pretty clear through his dialogue and the way he interacts with this girl that, you know, there is no romance or anything like that. And there is like, you know, his words and his actions say one thing on the screen, and make it more clear cut that he's just, you know, someone that appreciates this person in their life and she's giving him a new perspective as he copes with his, you know, troubles, with his trauma. And the girl just, you know, is like a young girl with a playful crush, and yeah, you know, that is pretty typical type stuff. But the kind of this method of storytelling and the background music and the kind of inner thoughts of the brother kind of lead you to believe that there's supposed to be some kind of romantic entanglement here, and that he's just going to wait 3 years for her to turn 18. Like, that's so preposterous and weird and uncool, you know? So I don't exactly find this objectionable because it's not so blatant as to be like irksome, but it just sat very awkwardly with me to have this otherwise very grounded and realistic story take this like kind of inappropriate twist, in my opinion. Yeah, that's all I got.
Okay. Amelia.
How about you, Geoff? Oh, you want me to go?
Yeah.
What has been making me happy? Well, I finished Your Lie in April, and that didn't really make me happy. It made me very sad. But it ended in a way that I thought was very nice and good. But other than that, I've been catching up on seasonals, so that's about it.
Okay. I discovered Retro Crush recently, and it's a online streaming service that is mainly older shows from the 80s and 90s, 2000s even. I started watching Osamatsu-kun.
Oh, yeah.
It's about this family, 6 tuplets, and their name is Osamatsu. Or rather, one of the characters' name is Osamatsu, but each individual brother has Atsu at the end. So the mom and dad always confuse which one is which, like which son is who, and it's very comical and lighthearted. It makes me think of just like Saturday morning cartoons. Retro Crush also has things like Pastel Yumi, Photons. It has.
Do you have to pay for it?
No, it's free right now. It's still in beta form. It was only on web browser, and then they moved it to Roku just recently, and it has a GTO on it. I'm looking at that right now. Bubblegum Crisis, Lupin.
Oh, I've been watching Dr. Slump.
Ooh, oh yeah,
I love Dr. Slump. Oh my god! I was watching it and I was like, oh my gosh! If there are any conventions this year, maybe I want to do an Arle cosplay because I love her.
Please do
so
that.
much. Do you want to be? What's his name?
Yes.
Because you got the hair for it. You got the hair. I'll buy you the outfit.
The doctor?
Yeah, the doctor.
Or a scientist, whatever. Yeah. Okay. We're doing it.
Yes.
Oh, and Baki just came out. The third part of that. It's on Netflix.
Is that why
Netflix
keeps telling me to watch that?
Oh man.
Oh shit.
Baki is just fucking people up.
So I want to clarify one more time. The Baki Netflix show is the sequel to the original Baki, the Grappler TV show.
Yes, I don't know if I'd call it a proper sequel, but yeah, I guess it continues. It does continue where I believe the TV show left off.
Okay,
I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, this section is a tournament in China. It's they get like the best warriors from China and then some people from Japan. They got Mike Tyson Jr. No, that is wrong. It is Muhammad Ali Jr. Whoops. Yeah, it's just like nonsense, but it's so good. Just feel like people getting into fights and dying. Well, they never die. That's the thing. I think these people would die after getting their face ripped off, but check that out right now.
Oh, okay. See you guys.
Wait, don't leave. Don't leave.
All right. Today we have a review of, drumroll, Dorohedoro. And I've been saying it 5 different ways since I've known about this show.
Yeah, just say it all the different ways all the time, and then you got your bases covered.
And this is different than Dorororo or Do Ra 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 Ra.
Yes.
Or there's a lot of shows with very similar names. So, how did we all come into Dorohedoro? Did anybody know about this show prior to us watching it?
So I always keep up with seasonals, and it came out like a few seasons ago, but I never checked it out, because Netflix had it and, they were hoarding it. But I didn't really think I was going to watch it, but after I saw that it was ultra violent, I was like, okay, I'm going to watch you.
Yeah, this came to my attention on Tumblr. When I initially started a Tumblr, people would I would follow random blogs that had manga in it, and I was like, oh, this random photos or screen caps of the manga kept popping up, and I was like, man, this looks really good. Just the art style alone was enough. It wasn't enough to get me to go and read it. I mean, it's probably it's free online. Don't tell anyone, but it's free online.
Don't tell anyone.
It's illegal. But they do have Viz has released. Yeah, Viz released the manga. I think they're. I don't know what volume they're on now, but they have not finished yet. So you can pay for it. Hey, support the cause, Dan.
Oh my God, Dan.
Support the industry.
Manga's like one of the things that like I can't like read or look at illegally.
It's
like
weird.
In my bones, I can't do it.
Isn't it really strange not to hold the comic in your hands?
Yeah, like I want to flip through the pages. Like I need to feel them.
Same.
I normally just go to Barnes. So this is how I read, for example, the next arc of Made in Abyss. I just periodically pop by Barnes and Noble and sit down and read it.
That's the way.
That's how you do it.
We'll go to Barnes and Noble for an hour or two and read the manga, put it back on the shelf.
Because you can get through volumes of manga like 10 times faster than you could just watching it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Whenever I go to Barnes and Noble, there's usually like weebs like lining the aisles, and I'm like trying to step over them.
But yeah, the visual art style in this on the manga, so when I heard this was becoming an anime, I have been, the anticipation for it it's been pretty high, and it's finally here in the States. What about you, Dan? Did you hear about this show or manga?
So this show was on my radar because I was doing cover art for my friend's band, and they, at least Samuel is an anime guy, and I am not some great visual arts person. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to find a nice clip from a gory manga, put that on the front, band logo below it, and boom, there's reasonable cover art for what we're doing. And I was doing a generic Google search for most violent manga, most gory manga, and Dorohedoro came up frequently, and I found a little snippet of art that I liked of one of the characters all sliced up and kind of hanging from the ceiling. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, it's right size, looks appropriately gory and fucked up, and fits the style and ambiance of what we're doing. So just slap that on the front cover and put the band logo below that, and we got our cover art. So that's good. And I was kind of intrigued by the different manga panels and different sites that I was seeing as I scanned through Dorohedoro looking for just the right thing. And then I read a little bit more about the story and was like, well, okay, this sounds pretty interesting. It looks cool. And I didn't really think about it until I saw that it was getting a anime adaptation. And I thought, oh, okay, that's cool. That's something I'm pretty keen to watch. And yeah, I thought it lived up to the hype. I thought it was fucking great.
And so knowing that it was going to be on Netflix, did you have any doubts?
Probably should have, but no.
Especially because part of it is 3D, right?
Yeah, all the character animation. Well, the majority of the character animation is 3D
or computer generated or whatever.
We'll get into that.
I don't know.
I want to give a little synopsis.
Yes,
real quick.
Please. Go ahead.
Feel free to jump in. I don't have to just read it completely, but. All right, so Dorohedoro is set in a past apocalyptic landscape, or I should say post-apocalyptic landscape. There's two different dimensions. There's the whole, which is comprised of humans, and the sorcerer's world, which has sorcerers. The sorcerers are able to create smoke with special organs in their body, and these can be modified by special doctors. And these special doctors also treat humans that fall victim to sorcerers' experimentations. And humans are basically worthless compared to the sorcerers. So you have two protagonists, Kaiman and Nikaido, who are working together to discover Kaiman's identity. Kaiman woke up one day with amnesia, only to discover he has a reptilian head. He finds himself with Nikaido, who owns the Hungry Bug. The Hungry Bug. Guess what they? Yeah, I'd totally eat there. They have gyoza, amazing gyoza.
Hell yeah!
That
beer.
Kaiman slurps up. Beer.
Gyoza and beer. You know.
Yes.
That's
absolutely.
That's it.
So in order to uncover his identity, Kaiman sticks his mouth over other sorcerers' heads. And then the body rises from Kaiman's throat, which is a human body, presumably his old self, to judge each victim. He then asks that person, you know, are you the person? Did you kill me? Or do you know anything that has happened? Like, why do I have a reptilian head, right? And if they don't know anything and his inner self says it's not them, he kills them, hoping that, he turns back to his original self. On the flip side, you have the antagonist, N. He is a mob boss of sorts. He rules the underworld or the sorcerer's world. His special powers include turning any object into mushrooms. Yes. Kind of like psychedelic mushrooms.
I like this kind.
Mm-hmm. He sends out his cleaners, Shin and Noi, aka Jules and Vincent from Pulp Fiction, to hunt down Kaiman because he is immune to magic and possesses a threat, right? Shin and Noi are very powerful sorcerers with superhuman strength. Noi is a sorcerer who can heal Shin, and Shin uses a hammer to beat the shit out of people, right?
Oh, I love it when he uses his hammer.
Yes. The hammer of death.
I love
Not like
his
Thor, hammer of God.
Yeah.
The hammer of sorcerers. They even have contests to see who can kill the most. Who's counting though?
Not me.
And did I mention that people die indiscriminately in this show? And that is the main gist of this show. People dying. Lots of death and gore.
Yeah, but when you say that, I was kind of surprised. Like it's very splattery. Like there's plenty of blood, but I actually think they toned down the gore from what I was expecting and what I remember the manga really being like.
Really?
And yeah, I'm curious what manga readers would have to say about that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I guess I went into it I guess when I think of anime gore, I think of like
Ninja Scroll, Violent Jack.
Yeah, the early 90s kind of shock and awe type anime. And I think of Shigarui Death Frenzy in terms of more modern anime. And with Shigarui, they really are like the guts are coming out, and you see like somebody will get their stomach sliced open, then all their guts will fall out, and they'll be like, and be like, oh my guts.
I mean, I saw some of that in this show.
Yeah,
a little bit of that, but
I kind of feel like. Yeah, well, I kind of feel like the comedy overshadows the gore a little bit, and I think it takes away from it, but not in a bad way, just in like a way that happens. Because like Kaiman himself is just like genuinely quirky and like can't control his emotions. So like when he's like tearing people apart and then like immediately being like, oh my God, what did I just do? And Nikaido's like, what are you doing? Those parts are like what I feel like the gore like gets taken away from, but I love both equally.
Yeah, I mean and I'm thinking of like the blood splatter in some of the scenes where it's just for like 5-10 seconds, it's just spraying 10 feet in the air.
Well,
but I see what you mean.
There was a scene where someone gets literally cut in half, and then when Kaiman is like throwing up blood in the toilet, and he just like reams back and like it's like shooting up into the air. Well, I because this was ultra violent, I was like, let me revisit some ultra violent anime. And so I rewatched Genocyber, and there's a similar scene in Genocyber where someone gets like literally torn in half and like blood is splurting everywhere, you know.
Yeah, but Genocyber also, I feel like you still like, you're like, oh, that's the intestines, you know, like, oh, there goes that person's kidneys, fuck. And that, I guess, Dorohedoro did not bring the level of anatomical detail that I was hoping that it might. But I agree that is not necessarily a bad thing or like some great critique or something. Like,
I do think they brought like just like brutality, like everyone that gets like that dies like gets dead brutal, like their heads are smashed into the wall or like they're literally like shredded into like a million pieces.
Yeah.
The impact brutality, that's what this show does best.
Yes, and I also agree with you, Amelia, that the show does not suffer for any of this. Like, it is so fun and so high energy and passionate about what it's doing. The only reason I felt this way is because I remembered certain panels from the manga and came into it with a certain expectation, and then felt like it wasn't there. But what I did get was perfect in and of itself. Like I wouldn't change a thing.
So I want to bring up something real quick before we get into it. I think this show sets itself up so perfectly within the first like 3 minutes right before the opening credits happen. I don't really find in anime like when someone is like narrating or like explicitly telling me like, oh, this is the world of the sorcerers and this is how it works and all of these are the characters and their names and where they live, and like that kind of like exposition really like will turn me off of a show. So I really like it when series just like dive right in to the premise. And I feel like Dorohedoro really just like does this extraordinarily well. Because you can gather everything that is about to happen in the entire series, like from context. Specifically, like the premise of like Kaiman sticking people's heads in his mouth to figure out who did that to him. They set up the magical element in it really well. And you can tell by just like where they're fighting that whatever world they're in, it's like dark and gritty and like not somewhere that like you want to live. And then even with like all of the brutality that's in the first like fight sequence, Nikaido literally just like flicks her fingers and breaks the guy's finger.
Oh yeah, that was brutal.
So brutal. And then Kaiman slices Matsumura into like a million pieces, and it gave me like Demon Slayer flashbacks. And I was just like living in that moment. I was like, yes, I want to see someone get sliced into like 18 pieces in every anime I watch. Like, I love this.
Yeah, the Kaiba. I was thinking about Kaiba in that sense. Like you're describing how you're just thrown into the world, and they don't necessarily explain things to you. You have to figure it out as you go.
Yeah, like don't tell me what's happening. Like I'm an adult. Like I can figure it out. Like I'm smart.
And would you argue though this show is a little confusing? But at the end of it, did you feel confused still? Or did you feel like it was fleshed out, like the world this season was fleshed out?
Well, okay, so the only thing that I think, and this is probably my only gripe with the show, is right at the end of that sequence, when Matsumura is letting the one guy go through the door, Nikaido says something like, oh, I'm really glad we got to see how they manifested that door, because like she made it sound like they don't, like nobody knows how to do that, or like that they haven't seen that before. And then later on in the series, like literally everyone is opening a door with their magic. Point. And I was just like, I thought you guys like didn't know how to open doors, but like it seems like you do. So now I'm confused. But
That's a good point. I didn't think about that, but that is a little inconsistency.
Yeah, that was the only thing really.
I felt like it wasn't confusing, but I would not call this fleshed out world building at all. I would say that it is functional world building. Like they explain just as much as they need to in order to keep the story moving forward and keep everything, within the bounds of reasonableness and sensibility, in story. But I also how big is the whole? How big is the sorcerer's world? What that these things, like the finer details elude me, but also I understand that it's not about these finer details. So, it's kind of inconsequential.
You know what? Bringing that back, I would also really love to know how deep the abyss is in Made in Abyss.
Right? Yeah, but nobody knows. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, nobody knows.
That's the journey, right?
Yeah, but I don't. You're trying to build a parallel here. I don't think that's reasonable because Made in Abyss is a story about the journey of discovering the abyss. So you are posited with the same questions as the characters in the show, and you discover these answers as the characters in the show do as well. So you're on this journey together. And Dorohedoro, you watch all these characters going about their daily lives in a manner where like they already know what's going on. They already have all the answers. It's just you as the viewer don't have them because you're never presented with this information because it's not important, because the show is not really about the world that these people live in the way that like One Piece is. Sure, it's about the Straw Hat Pirates, but also it's about the world of One Piece, and that's why the world of One Piece is so fleshed out. Or like Legends of the Galactic Heroes is like, it's the story of Reinhard and Yang, but also it's the story of the known universe. So the whole known universe has to be thoroughly explained.
I mean, they have a map. They have a map each episode, right? Beginning of One Piece to show you this is where you are and this is the journey of like.
Yeah, exactly. And Dorohedoro is not really the story of the whole in the world of the sorcerers and hell and whatnot. It's the story of these individual characters. So the larger overarching facets of the world they live in are just kind of inconsequential in comparison to, these people as individuals.
I was just joking.
Oh, okay, sorry. I can't take a joke. Mr. Serious guy over here, very serious.
It's a bit of anarchy, isn't it?
Yeah.
The show. If you were to describe its story and just the world itself, it's just chaotic and
fun.
It's really fun. It. Yeah. And the colors, I couldn't imagine this. I was reading it, as a comic, and I have to say, like, I'm going to keep reading it, but the colors in the show and the music just really bring it all together. It's a delight to watch it. It's kind of a mesh of, I could think of Akira mixed with, I don't know, like Hellraiser and Alice in Wonderland, sort of like this concoction of different things, and very pulpy 90s pulp,
Yeah.
I see that.
Just like a mashup of genres.
They did have some real wonky animation in the first episode, though. I was like, is my Netflix buffering right now? Excuse me? Netflix? Hello?
Well, I'm posing out. I didn't notice. When it comes to the animation, I feel like you can tell how much the creators loved making the show by the number of ending sequences. And I kind of want to, maybe that's just a broader point that like you can tell how much a studio loves working on this show by the amount of extra openings and endings they crank into it, you know?
Yeah, the last 4 episodes all had different endings.
Yeah. But on the other hand, that doesn't necessarily, like, I feel like there's counterexamples to that. The main one being Hunter x Hunter, which has the same not the same opening animation, but the same opening song for 150 episodes.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's a great song.
Man, it's so good. I know all the words. Like,
yeah,
they did change the opening.
It's like a different version.
In Dorohedoro, it's the same theme song, right?
Yeah.
Same opening, but different endings all the time. Yeah. I love the opening too. I thought the opening was such an interesting, like, clearly outside the scope of the show, because they flash characters and stuff on screen that is inconsistent with what's happening in the show, but it also kind of adds to the chaos. And the way that the blonde girl looks when she's chopping up the meat and just like wide-eyed, bugging out, like, ah! And I'm like, oh shit, man, she looks fucking cool, man. She's having a good time. Awesome.
I know. I was like thinking, like, maybe we could all do a group cosplay.
Yeah, I would do that. Just put a lizard mask on me. I'm ready.
Dude, you got the height already.
Yeah.
You can be Kaiman.
My gym's opening back up on Wednesday, so just give me a little bit.
Oh, yeah, you can get buff. Yeah.
Buff.
I want to be Nikaido, so I'd have to get buff too.
Yeah, Nikaido is like, I want to hang out with Nikaido and Kaiman on a daily basis. You know? I too would be chasing the coattails of Nikaido like 13. I would be like, yo, give me some gyoza. Let's talk. Let's hang out, you know.
Who's the young doctor who's stuck as a teenager?
Oh, I love him. All of his tattoos.
Yes, I think I'd be him.
I love his tattoos. I love them.
He's just always so optimistic.
He was very cool.
Oh, what a good boy.
It's a good boy.
Yeah, and the way he got that bug, Johnson, and I also like think it's so it's so perfect the way it's tied in that, like, he controls Johnson by shocking him with electricity, so the only word that he says is shocking, but then he manages to drop that at like all the right comedically timed moments in the show. It's like, shocking. It's like, oh, you have a giant bug, shocking.
What was that 90s movie? Is it Ted's Apartment or something Apartment, where they had talking cockroaches?
Oh, I remember. Ew. I didn't see that movie, but I remember that.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
No.
He said no.
Fuck that.
What the hell was that movie called? I kept just thinking about that. I'm like, man, what if they had used that as for inspiration? Ted. I'm thinking of like Ted and Bill and Ted, aren't I?
But I know the movie you're talking about, Geoff. I clearly remember seeing previews for it.
Did y'all catch how many Mappa logos were in this anime?
Oh, dozens, right?
They were like little tiny hidden gems, and I was like, oh my god, yes, I love this.
Oh shit. It makes me feel like I gotta rewatch and keep my eyes open for it.
I feel like I watched each episode twice almost, because there were like things that I wanted to go back and like rewatch.
And also the mangaka Q was in different spots in the anime as well.
Oh really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like she is an individual, or is she just her signature? It is a her, right? It's a woman that writes this. Yeah. Okay.
Q. What is her last name?
Hayashida.
So it's just, you just see like a Q like in the middle of a hubcap or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Word.
That's what those were.
That's sort of a traditional thing to do with studios, is to put their name on random objects, like on T-shirts and.
Yeah, I feel like you don't see that anymore. Really.
Not really.
That sucks.
They got to learn how to self-promote.
Yeah, man. Come on. Brand. You got to boost your brand.
Yeah. It's like all the currently popular rap and hip hop singles where everybody says their name before, like right in the first 20 seconds of the song, which is a very cool style. And I too want to do stuff like that in my own songs. And anime studios need to do that too. Put your own logo in universe.
Yeah. Self-advertising.
Yeah,
do people really know that though? Like, do people care about that stuff anymore?
They should care about that stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dan? Like, do you feel like it's in this next generation of otaku? It's like, I mean, yeah, you do have studios that are prolific, but
well, yes. I actually, when you say it like that, I actually think that people would be more apt to care now than they would be in the past. And I'm going to, I might be off base in my thought process here, but I feel like the popular anime fandom has advanced so much in the last, 20 years. In the 90s and the early 2000s, people knew a couple big name studios, people knew Studio Gainax were the people that made Neon Genesis Evangelion, but generally speaking, there was not much critical discussion of individual studios or individual animators, and kind of the tracking of the industry was not done by Western fans, versus now where people are on the internet debating like, well, there's a specific freelance animator that works for Studio Wit, and he may not work on the new season of Attack on Titan because it's at Studio Mappa, so maybe the animation quality will suffer. As that level of granular industry analysis and knowledge of all the different players in the game and all the different studios and staff, the internet has made all that stuff relatively accessible now, and YouTube commentators and random message board people, everybody's picking up on it and running with it. I think people would be more appreciative of these kind of Easter eggs now because we're at a place as a fandom that we're more critically engaged with anime than we have been.
Right. Yeah. I think in, having certain studios branch out to form other studios, and you get studios who did Kill la Kill and Primar.
Studio Trigger.
Like
the best.
That is
goats. The untouchable, my gods.
Well, the Trigger has like their own specific style that like that's a Trigger anime. Like Shaft always has the head tilt. You'll always see someone tilting their head all the way back if it's a Shaft anime. I feel like there's like studios should have signifiers that we can relate to.
Yeah,
because I mean that if I'm watching an anime and it's by the people who made Shaft, and I love the Monogatari series, and everybody does these crazy weird head tilts, and I love that, and then I watch this other anime and they do the same head tilt, like I'm gonna be more invested in that series like automatically because I like Shaft,
And this is Studio Mappa for those who don't know, and they've had some pretty big titles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is I was looking at that before we started recording, and this is not a studio that is necessarily on my radar, but they've had plenty of rock solid good stuff.
Zombieland Saga and Kakegurui. Oh my gosh, I love
Hajime no Ippo Rising.
Yeah.
Yuri on Ice. Yeah, the Banana Fish.
Love that series.
They did Dororo.
I really like that one. I don't know. That's like people don't like that one, but I liked it.
They did Dororo and then got confused when they tried to make more and did Dorohedoro. Had a little hay in there.
And this is speaking of branching off. This is Masao Maruyama, founder and former producer of Madhouse, and we love Madhouse, right?
Yeah.
At least we used to.
Yeah. Well, and so I guess what I'm getting here with Mappa is that they have done quite well for themselves, but also there's not some like great unifying artistic voice through all this stuff. Like we see that Dorohedoro is this 3D animation style that is kind of synonymous with Netflix at this point, but that's clearly not like that must have been Netflix telling Studio Mappa, hey, do it like this, because the rest, no other work that they've done has the style of animation and the style of 3D animation. But they clearly have a good relationship with Netflix because Netflix picked up their other show, Kakegurui, as well.
Yeah, the Banana Fish doesn't have the 3D animated characters, but it still has sort of this. They did a good job of fleshing out the city and the world that it's in, like the sort of grittiness of the city and how the characters interact in this environment is very believable.
Yeah, and when you say it like that, that reminds me of when I was watching Banana Fish, and I think maybe you and I talked about this, Geoff, but I can't remember exactly. But I was comparing it to Yuri on Ice and thinking about how Yuri on Ice seemed to trip over itself a little bit in terms of pacing, and it spent so much time fixated on people's individual ice skating that they kind of didn't exactly lose track of the story, but like felt like a very inefficient use of time. And compared to Banana Fish, and Dorohedoro is a little bit closer to Banana Fish in this regard, that it's so fast, it's so furious, it's just popping off immediately, and it never lets up, it never slows down. There is very little moment, there's very little like ambiance or character introspection or emotion or whatever. It's just non-stop plot, this is happening, that's happening, they're driving across the country now, and then taking enemy fire, blah blah blah. Yeah, Banana Fish is just ruthlessly fast, which is a good thing in my opinion. I think it serves that show really well. Dorohedoro also is like very fast paced and efficient in how it's doing things. Burns through 40 chapters of manga in 12 episodes, which is a lot. I think by comparison, most shows are covering like 20 to 30 chapters, if my understanding is correct. But it doesn't feel rushed. It's just really efficient in how it gets stuff done. And my kind of underlying point here is that once again, we see Mappa lacking a personality insofar as like, it's not like they only, clearly they're not making only super fast paced, nonstop thrill ride anime, because they make this slow, thing like Yuri on Ice too. So yeah, Mappa, who are you? Who are you?
I want a Mappa shirt. Can we make each other Mappa shirts?
Yeah, but what is if you're rocking a Studio Trigger shirt, I feel like you know what you're saying. It's like your burning manly spirit never dies, / you're really into cute people doing cute things, because that seems to be the other half of their output. But what does a Studio Mappa shirt really say?
Like a film festival t-shirt. Like TIFF. It's like seeing TIFF. Oh, who cares about TIFF? Pretentious.
And I agree that more studios need to put an emphasis on personality, and that's something that I really like about Studio Trigger. They when you're watching a Studio Trigger anime, that it's Studio Trigger, and you can feel what they want to say to you, and you can feel their dedication to the craft and their energy. Their personality is engaging. It's like, oh, I really want to know more about them. It's very compelling. Yeah.
Well, this gives me hope for Attack on Titan. We've already talked about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the sorcerers too, because we've talked about Lizard Guy and Blonde Girl, who are so cool, and I want to hang out with them every day. but also I want to hang out with Hearthead guy and the muscular girl too. They're also so cool. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say they've got great backstories. They eventually get around to telling it. And at first I was like, nah, I don't care about these characters. But by, episode 10, I was like, yeah, I'm behind who's the bad guy here? There's no really clear distinction, good and evil necessarily. You have devil characters, but are there angels? Isn't there an angel character?
I think that's just a coincidental name of somebody's magic rather than a categorized identity.
Yeah, because that could be an interesting, plot element if there were. Maybe that'd be a little generic though.
Yeah, well, once again, we see like this, the world building is not crafted more than is necessary to make the story happen. Because what is the relation of the sorcerer's world to hell, and what's up with the devils exactly, and is there a corresponding heaven that goes with the hell? And these questions are not answered. But also, they don't really need to be,
It's the whole.
Yeah.
Maybe.
The whole, I mean, the whole is supposed to be heaven. I mean, good fucking God, man. Bleak existence right there. Yeah, the sorcerer's world is clearly much more like the whole just fucking sucks, right? I mean, it's like a ghetto, and the sorcerer's world is still kind of built on class a little bit, but we can see that they have more infrastructure, more economy. It's cleaner, it's nicer. It's got its bad parts, but also they've got meaningful material wealth too. And we never see any hint that the whole has any kind of economy happening in a meaningful way. And there do not seem to be wealthy people anywhere. Like everyone is kind of dirty and unkempt, living in broken down buildings, and everything around them is just fucked up.
Versus the sorcerer's world, where it's a little higher and it's sort of like Renaissance era looking.
It reminded me of a college campus, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel that.
I was like, okay, everybody's partying. Right. Okay. Cool. 4-day party. Yeah.
Yeah, and as we talk about the Blue Night Festival, what exactly is the point of people like Hearthead guy and Muscular Girl getting new partners? I guess Shin and Noi are their names, right? What is the point of Shin and Noi getting new partners? Because they're the perfect tag team. Like why is that even a thing?
I think that they just wanted to point out that people can change partners, and wanted to have Nikaido as his partner. I don't know if it was anything besides that. Yeah,
because in story they make this big deal about how the N crime family is accepting new partners for each of their members, and you can apply to be a partner for these people. And then I guess the idea was, like, I was not entirely clear on what the process was, but I thought the idea was that these people had, all these applicants, if they were their application was accepted and passed along, that each of these people had 3 days to knock our characters unconscious and then drag them to the devil's house and form a contract with them. And so it was a matter of having to be tougher than the members of this crime family in order to kind of marriage yourself into the family, and then the family grows stronger. But then they can never find anybody that's as tough as any of them. So there's kind of nobody that is worth, bringing into the family in that context. And I kind of understood that, and that makes sense. But also just look at Shin and Noi. They're perfect together. They have so much, such an intimate friendship and such a efficient working relationship. Like when they're battling one of the bad guys, or like somebody from a rival crime organization, and Shin is charging at him with the hammer, and the guy like destroys Shin's arm, and then Noi uses her magic to rebuild Shin's arm just in time for him to clonk the hammer down on this guy's head. I'm like, damn, that's some real teamwork, that's some fluid shit. Like they really are like beat for beat right up on each other. Like what is even the point of trying to have new partners for these people when they're fucking made for each other?
It's like a renewal. It's like a
marriage contract. You got to renew your vows
every 4 years, and you can only do it during this blue light festival.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which like I don't understand why like people need to have a partner, because it's not like people who don't have a partner can't practice their magic. I was like, okay. Do they need partners? I mean, can't you just be like, hey, partner, like, want to be partners?
I'm happy being a single guy. I don't need no partner.
Poor Ibisu. I love that character. Did anyone sign up to be her partner?
No, signed up. She signed up to be whatever the long-nosed mask guy's thing is. I don't know about her. Like I was intrigued when she first came on screen, and I was like, okay, cool. Like you've got some Sharingan going on. We got a little Naruto character over here. And then she gets her face ripped off, and which is like one of my favorite scenes in this show. But like, and then she like loses her memory, and then I just like lost interest, and she was kind of just there for comic relief at that point for me.
Yeah, she's real goofy, but I really like the dynamic of her, and I think Fujiwara is his name, the long-nosed guy. Mm-hmm. I really like their dynamic, and they did not accept applications to be her partner, but she did apply to be Fujiwara's partner, and it made my heart go doki doki.
She makes me think of Mako from Kill la Kill.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally.
It's being really ridiculous.
I really don't like Mako.
Oh, I love Mako.
I stopped watching Kill la Kill because of Mako.
Oh my good God, man!
I could not stand that character at all.
I'm on the opposite side of the fence there. I'm like ready to hang out with Mako.
I wanted to rip my ears off. I was like, I'm done, Kill la Kill. Like, fuck you. Like, stop.
I did kind of drop that show with her in mind, thinking about it because of how absurd she was in their relationship. But when I went back to watch it years later, I was like, actually, I like her. I don't like her as much as Ibisu. I'll say that. Ibisu is just the right amount. Just the right amount of.
I really like the scene at the end when they're like getting ready for like the formal ball or whatever, and Ibisu puts on a dress and her boobs are humongous. She says, "Boing, boing,
boing." Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that
and
was
Noi
great,
keeps
too.
like tripping over herself in her heels. Like that entire like skit, just like I was like rolling.
Yeah. I also thought that was really good stuff.
I like busted out laughing. I had to pause it. I was like, "Oh my God."
The wait, what was her name? Who's the girl that we're talking about that turns people into lizards? What's her fucking name?
Ibisu.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Ibisu in the shark suit made me think of Katy Perry's infamous Left-Hand Shark, and that also filled me with joy. Are you guys familiar with the Left-Hand Shark?
I've seen memes from it.
Yeah.
Good. It's a great moment in popular culture.
I was thinking of Baby Shark when I saw that personally.
Yeah, apparently that's such a worldwide popular song. I was talking about that in United Arab Emirates with Chris and Karen, because they were saying that all the little kids they interact with are all up on that song and sing it and shit. And I'm like, I've literally never heard of this before. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Apparently it's a big thing.
I'm going to play it I'm going to insert it somewhere.
Good. I thought N was quite a good bad guy insofar as he's not even like so clearly bad. I mean, it's like kind of your average crime boss guy, but I did think it was interesting that I think there's a similar sense of, I was going to say, he's got a similar sense of power as Luffy from One Piece insofar as just turning stuff into mushrooms doesn't really seem like it's such this insanely great combat move or really bestows one with so much unreal power. Is really just the way you use it and the quality at which you can use it makes all the difference. In the same way, like Luffy being Mr. Rubber Guy does not necessarily mean that he ought to be the greatest fighter out there, yet he is, because he knows how to best utilize his rubberness, and he's really, really good at it. And in the same way, and clearly so far ahead of everyone else in terms of the amount of smoke he can produce, the amount of mushrooming he can do, and all the different ways that one could actually use a mushroom. Yeah, really interesting stuff.
I want his pet for my pet.
Yeah, his affection for the pet is really cool.
I love that pet. What's his name? Kikurage or something like that?
Yeah.
I want one. Can I have one for my birthday?
Yeah, I'll go catch one.
Yay!
They're all over the place out here in Minneapolis.
You gotta dress your cat up like that. Dress, Phoebe up.
Oh my god.
Halloween.
She would not have that.
Other side characters. Besides Johnson. Johnson was just absurd too, but I'm trying to think of who else. I think we covered most of them.
Mm-hmm. What about your top gory moments? Your favorite gory scene?
Thinking about, you already stated this one where Kaiman's having a dream and his mouth opens up and his body, or his past body, rises up. Mm-hmm. There's just blood splatter everywhere. Mm-hmm. And there's one scene towards the end of the series too where, I think I also mentioned this, where there's like a sunset sort of scene. There's a big rock, and I'm trying to think of whose throat's being ripped open, but there's just a huge splatter of blood.
I really like the at the end of the first episode when all of the heads are smashed inside of the wall.
Ooh.
Like,
yeah.
Fucking brutal, dude. Or like anytime Shin uses his hammer, it's like always brutal. Just like boom. Right.
Yeah, and I think it's cool that he just uses a more or less run-of-the-mill hammer for all this stuff. As we think about when Geoff was kind of comparing this to Thor's hammer, it's like he's using the hammer from office or from Home Depot down the street. He ain't using some big oversized bludgeoning tool. He's a handy guy, and he knows what to do with a hammer.
Mm. There's also the scene where Kaiman goes to the sorcerer's world without Nikaido the second time, and he's in the back alley watching these people like get beat up, and then like he intervenes and stabs this like clown in the face. And I really liked that.
There should be a drinking game where just like someone dies, you have to take a drink.
Take a shot. Yes.
Yeah, or someone gets stabbed or brutalized just randomly. I'm thinking about the guy on the carpet, the magic carpet.
Oh, yeah,
stabbed off the carpet and falls. It's just like, all right, I guess don't have a pilot now.
Yeah, I guess my favorite moment of brutality is when Nikaido breaks that guy's finger in the first 20 seconds.
Yeah.
like above and beyond everything else was kind of like, oh, that's cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the finger was like shocking.
Little splatter. Yeah, but when the finger broke, I was like, oh my good Lord, that's gotta hurt. Fucking good God.
She does it so seamlessly. Like,
yeah.
She's gotta have like so much muscle in those 2 fingers that she used.
She's tough, man.
She's gotta be like the strongest fingers.
Thinking about the hammer though, there's a movie called You Were Never Really Here. Look it up. And it has Joaquin Phoenix in it. And he basically, he's not a hitman, but he once was, I think, like in the military at one point. And he does jobs for people. Yeah, so he's a hitman. He does jobs for people. And he's trying to save this girl who's in sex trade ring, and he just goes around with a hammer and fucking beats the shit out of people with it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really good. It's like, it's really quiet. It's more about the audio engineering and sort of audio experience, not so much plot driven. It's more visual audio driven.
You know, Joaquin goes off because did y'all see that one where he's like a fake rapper? I think it's called I'm Not Here or something like that, where he's like, it's like a mockumentary and he's just like this like crazy rapper.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I haven't watched it.
Oh my God, that one's really good too.
Okay. Came out
not brutal at all, but like, yeah. Speaking of Joaquin.
This character looks like Steve a little bit.
Oh, really?
And You Were Never Really Here.
Okay, let me look it up.
Look at the cover. I can see Steve walking around like this in the cover.
He kind of looks like that in the rapper movie too.
Yeah, Old Boy also has some famous hammer violence in it. That Korean movie.
Old Boy. Love that movie.
Yeah, classic.
He does look like Steve.
Let me post it.
Oh my God.
Wait, where are you posting this?
I'll post
it in the
you.
chat. Yeah.
Oh, God, my fucking virus is coming up. I can't get to the chat.
Damn.
Stop.
I'm going to send you a computer.
I don't care if Jessica sent me pictures. Stop.
Other points, though, because it's one of those shows where it's hard to describe it in words until you actually see it in its glory, you know. It's sort of...
Yeah, because there's a lot.
Dream, you know,
there's a lot going on. You know, like there's lots of different plot threads that are all intertwined. We have, Kaiman and the blonde girl who are kind of romantically engaged, but kind of not. And they're walking, running around killing sorcerers in the hole to protect the hole. But also they're trying to discover Kaiman's identity because he has a guy in the back of his mouth that so he has to eat people's heads. So then they interact with the guy in the back of his mouth that can tell them key information sometimes that'll help shed light on the identity. And because they're killing sorcerers, then En and his crime family want to fuck them up, but then they also want to sway the blonde girl onto their side because she's secretly a super powerful sorcerer. And there's like more dynamic and nuanced character relationships than one might expect from a show where so many people are having blood splatter all the time.
Yeah, and I think the romance in it is handled really well because it's not like outward like coupling. It's like more about like the relationship that the partners are building with each other, like in a non-romantic way, even though like at the end it kind of seems like Nikaido and Kaiman do really like each other. Throughout the series, it's not like overpowering. I feel like, you clearly you would care about this person if you have spent all this time like fighting and killing people like alongside them.
Yeah. And Shin and Muscular Girl too. Also like very well written, like kind of romantic, but kind of not, just intimate. Yeah, very, very intimate.
Perhaps in the later, in the manga, they develop their relationships more.
Yeah, well, that's a good question because these 12 episodes only deal with the first 25% of the story. And I am assuming that they're going to, like, the manga's finished, it's done. So they could feasibly adapt the entire thing. I mean, that's kind of my assumption. Like, why would you just adapt a little bit of it? Like, I feel like clearly they intend to adapt the entire story into 50 episodes or so. And yeah, bring it on. I'm ready. I'm ready,
so ready
and hyped for the rest of it.
I guess if it gets enough popularity, hype or whatever, they'll continue it.
Yeah, so everybody watch this show and get a
everybody watch it and then buy the DVDs when they come out.
Buy the box sets.
The special edition ones.
Buy the merch.
The one that comes with the Kaiman head for your cosplay.
There's going to be a lot of people walking around with Kaiman head, masks.
Yeah.
In the near future, I imagine.
Hopefully people watch it.
Yeah.
Please go watch it.
I post on Tumblr as Bubblegum Crash, FYI, and I've been posting GIFs on there, and people have been posting shit for the show. And it seems to have a very dedicated fan base that already existed. That's kind of from what I'm getting. Same with like Banana Fish, things that have been going on for a while or syndicated for a while, just never were licensed here.
Do you guys like naturally like ultraviolent anime? Is like that like a genre that you would watch no matter what?
No.
Yeah, because I don't really watch a whole lot of horror, gore, live action stuff. It just tends to be seinen anime or manga that's based off manga. And I think there's probably like this sort of popularity now with a lot of these older OVA shows and movies that is sort of has a internet presence surrounding it. And it's sort of the thing to do is to go back and watch these shows because maybe a lot of fandom is hit, or at least for the younger audience, hit sort of a plateau where, okay, well, we're watching the same kind of shows. Let's go back and rediscover what we'd miss. I don't know. That's just conjecture, but yeah.
Because like, I feel like, especially not in anime, I really like horror and I really like gore. Not like super shock value gore or anything. Like I don't like the Saw or Hostel franchises like whatsoever, but like I can appreciate like artfulness within the horror genre. And I feel like Dorohedoro is, if you are of age to watch it, could be for everyone. Like I don't feel like it's so gory that like you wouldn't want to watch it, and it's not like so not gory that it doesn't draw you in.
I agree. Yeah. I feel like I appreciate gore and the trashy horror, smut, gore, whatever type stuff as much as the next guy. And I'm not a fan, but yeah, sure. I've seen a lot of these kind of movies. The Man Behind the Sun and whatever else, Oregon. And yeah, that stuff's cool. Sure. I like it as much as the next guy, but that in and of itself, gore and that style of craziness is not enough to keep me interested or to like draw me to something. I still like, good characters going through a good story. The fundamentals are always going to be what is most appealing and most important to me. And Dorohedoro has those kind of fundamentals, right? Like I'm in it to see, Shin and Muscular Girl get together and see Kaiman and the blonde girl get together and figure out what is Kaiman's real identity. And, that's what I want to see. Like I want to know how these plot threads and character relationships pan out through the rest of the story. And all the gore and stuff just makes it all the more fun and exciting.
Yeah, and I think because it's not like overly sexual.
Yeah,
it helps.
That helps a lot too.
Yeah,
I agree.
Because a lot of times like gore is and like overtly sexual scenes are like go hand in hand, and I really like that Dorohedoro doesn't do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I hadn't considered that angle of it, but that's very, very true. And I think the show would not have been nearly as fun or as interesting if it tried to be overly sexualized. Would have ruined the ambiance a little bit.
Yeah.
As an example, Wicked City.
Oh, I love Wicked City.
Yeah, Wicked City's great.
Fuck, man.
But in that sense, it's like that over sexualization. Like there's rape, there's violence towards women, in general. So
I feel like that's more prevalent in like 90s anime, especially like Crying Freeman is one of my favorites. And that's all about gang stuff.
They probably couldn't get away with a Wicked City. Maybe they could, like a Netflix remake of Wicked City in CG.
Oh my god, no! Please don't ruin it.
Do you think that has a lot to do with the fact that it doesn't feel not real? That's not the word. Like visceral, tangible, because I don't know. Like when you see a 3D animated figure getting its head sliced off, is it maybe if it was hand drawn, it would have more fleshy feel? Is that relevant at all?
I don't know, because like I was watching Genocyber and I was like, yeah, man, this is blood and this is guts, but like it doesn't. Where's the glistening like blood that's like supposed to be coming off of it?
You weren't cringing necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't like, ew. I was like, that's intestines.
Yeah, I hadn't considered the idea that the 3D animation style limits the impact of the gore and the splatter. And maybe that's true. I can believe that. I mean, could you make as I'm thinking of scenes that like really make me wince, I think it's the Italian zombie movie that's just called Zombie, when there's like the broken off piece of wood and the woman's eye gets pierced by the broken off piece of wood. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Zombie. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that scene sticks out in my mind as like, damn, dude, like that's brutal. That shit looks like it hurts. Could you replicate such a scene with 3D animation and have it give the same intensity and the same impact? Maybe not. Yeah, maybe not.
Because that was kind of my issue with Ghost in the Shell, because they, I think this show did 10 times better job of animating 3D animation.
Literally.
Yeah, but when you watch that Ghost in the Shell, you're like, does a naked man really do 30 backflips in a row up a stairway? Like, is that actually what it looks like?
Yeah, exactly. You're thinking about that. Whereas in this show, you're like not thinking about the reality of, can this possibly happen? You're seeing it and it's going, okay, she's doing this. She's flipping around, and Hokkaido is flipping around, doing backflips and shit, and then kicking you in the face. Oh, and it's just sort of, there's no, in animation, traditional animation, there's squash and stretching, right? There's not really any of that, and at least from the shows we've been watching, the character animation is not like that.
No, they do. I feel like maybe their answer to that is like slowing up and speeding, like slowing down and speeding up the action that's happening. Because like when Nikaido kicks whatever his name is in the face in the first scene, they like really slow down and like show you the impact and the sweat and the blood that comes off. So like maybe that's like the 3D animation's version of like stretching and shrinking.
Right. Interesting.
Not that it like is comparable, just like as an argument.
Yeah, I really like the chest, the contract. We talked about the contracts. And just one of the other things I wanted to point out was like the fact that they had their insides opened, or like their cavities exposed.
And they weren't like I mean, they were like, it hurts, but like the blood wasn't gushing out. Like it's like there was supposed to be a cavity there for your contract.
Hey, contracts are a serious business, man.
I think my favorite episode was the baseball episode. Not to give too much away, but there's just basically a baseball battle between the sorcerers, right? And the people of the Worms. One of the team was called the Worms.
The doctors
it was between the two hospitals, but there was two sorcerers from the N crime family that snuck into the hole to try to get some business done, and they wound up on one of the hospital's teams. I agree. I thought that episode was really fun.
Yeah, it makes me think of Seinfeld for some reason. And like the episode where they have an icy or like there's a slushy involved. Am I thinking of the right one?
Yeah. Well, what's the name of the girl that turns everybody into lizards? Edna?
Ibisu.
Yeah. Ibisu gives two of the opposing baseball players a smoothie that is laced with, it's not laced with some kind of drug that puts them straight to sleep. Puts them straight to sleep.
Classic. Click.
Classic sorcerer hijinks.
Yeah. I can't wait for the next season of this. I'm going to go ahead and start reading it, I think.
I feel like I want to wait for the anime.
I don't know if I can put my faith in Netflix or Mappa.
What?
It's fair.
I feel like they did a good job on this. I mean, I didn't read the manga, but so maybe I'm like biased, but
just to put faith in that they'll have a second season, and where I'm like still like on the high of the anime, but yeah, maybe it wouldn't be the same.
Well, we need you to read the manga so you can tell us what happens, and so you can further commentate on whether the manga and anime are that dramatically different, and if the anime fucks it all up or what.
All right. We should do a manga episode where we like all read something.
Yeah, I would do that. What are you guys reading these days? You reading anything in particular?
I read. What do I read? I read The Promised Neverland. I read Kaguya-sama, Love is War, and I read this fairly new manga called Kaiju Girl Caramelise, and it's about a girl who turns into a kaiju and her heart gets the Doki Dokis.
Oh,
and it's really cute. It's like kaiju, but like mixed with like shoujo.
Sounds cool.
Yeah,
I'd hang out with a love monster.
Oh, it's so cute. And she eats pancakes, and the pancakes look divine. But yeah, that's what I read specifically.
Yeah, I've been reading Battle Angel Alita. I just got the 3rd volume yesterday. It's one of the only ones I want to collect. Like there's certain ones that I wouldn't mind having the physical copy. Or I want the physical copy, where the art is enough to drive me to have it. It's like an art book, essentially. Illustrations, and what else? I think that's mainly it. Uzumaki stuff. Ito Junji. Trying to read all his anthology. But yeah,
that's one I wanted to get into, but I haven't quite done that yet.
That's cringe. Like that whole type of horror, and that's going to be remade. Like that, because it's right up the same genre in a way, though darker, much darker.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen people make the argument online that Ito's manga really don't lend themselves to anime adaptations.
Oh, fuck the anime adaptation.
Yeah, and I watched an episode or two of one of the recent it was like the adaptations of his short stories or something, and yeah, that definitely did not come across very well.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, not good.
They did him dirty.
Who's the studio doing the Uzumaki adaptation? Because that could be a deal breaker, right? It's Production IG. And it's coming to Adult Swim, FYI.
Ew. They are going to fuck it up. I'm sorry.
Lame. Weak.
Oh my
Weak.
God. Yeah, seriously. What the fuck, dude?
Boo. Boo. Boo.
Oh, man.
The argument could be made, like when we think of the worst travesties of great franchises, you know, Berserk is generally the top one, right? That like arguably the best manga ever, but has not received fulfilling anime adaptations, you know, for like 30 years now. And but why? Like, it's still huge. It's so insanely popular, you know. Like, why have they just not given this to someone that knows what to do with it and will do it justice? But now I'm starting to feel like, man, maybe our guy Juji Ito is actually the real champion of people taking his beautiful, you know, legacy of artistic success and merit and just flushing it down the toilet with crappy adaptations. You know, like, why would they do that to Mr. Ito? You know, that's mean. It
is mean. They were mean to Fully Cooley too.
It's fucked up.
It is fucked up. Stupid ass.
Any last thoughts on Dorohedoro?
I am anxiously awaiting the next season.
Yeah, everybody go watch it so that we can have a season 2.
Yeah, this is grade A+ stuff, and we're watching it drop in real.
If anyone has any suggestions for reviews, hit us up at otakuhostclub.com or email us at
otakuhostclub@gmail.com. Also, join our Discord, and you can directly tell us in our feedback section.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I posted a picture of my new Commander Yang, General Yang toy.
Oh, yeah.
But nobody commented.
What? I didn't see this.
Yeah, we did. Well, that's good. You guys don't even get on our Discord.
The thing is, I thought about just texting it to you, Geoff, but then I was like, well, wouldn't it be like more topical to post it on the Discord? Because that's like what Amelia wants me to do. So that's what I'll do.
I posted 2 hoodies that I wanted to buy, and nobody commented except for Matt from Otaku Melancholy. And then it sold out, so I couldn't even buy it.
Thanks for joining us. We are the Otaku Host Club. I hope you enjoyed this episode. You can check us out at otakuhostclub.com or voicemail us at 240-324-8295. That way you can leave a voicemail, let us know what you think. Do you have any suggestions or review ideas? Please leave us a voicemail, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.